You're not allowed to pull out until I'm satisfied." The voice, or perhaps more accurately, the resonant hum that vibrated deep in his bones, stated with absolute certainty. Cale froze, his fingers inches from the scorched control panel he'd been painstakingly trying to pry loose. The derelict hulk he was scavenging was supposed to be empty, picked clean decades ago. The low thrumming had started subtly, just a whisper in the background radiation, but now it was a clear, almost physical presence. He turned slowly, scanner pistol in hand, its low-energy beam sweeping the shadowed corridor. The air, thick with the dust of ages and the metallic tang of decay, suddenly felt charged, alive. Then he saw her. Not exactly, not with his eyes alone. She was tangled in the wreckage of a collapsed bulkhead, metal plating pinning her lower half. Her form was graceful, slender, utterly alien, but it was the light that drew his attention. Not reflected light, but generated. Soft, pulsing lines of cerulean and amethyst traced intricate patterns across what he assumed was her skin, flowing like liquid within delicate structures that hinted at something both fragile and incredibly strong. The light wasn't just visual, it hummed, a harmonic vibration that resonated with the thrumming sound, creating a complex symphony of presence. It felt like she was speaking with every molecule of her being. He lowered the pistol fractionally, caution warring with a primal, unnerving curiosity. This wasn't just an alien, this was something else entirely. Something that looked like it belonged in the deep void, not trapped in a dying piece of scrap metal. "Satisfied," he managed, his voice raspy through the recycled air of his helmet, the words feeling absurdly mundane in the face of her glowing intensity. "Satisfied with what? Getting you out of that." The patterns on her form shifted, the blues deepening, the amethysts pulsing faster. It felt like impatience, authority. "Satisfied with the exchange, human." The hum solidified into words again, clear inside his head, bypassing his helmet comms somehow. "I require your aid, you require sustenance, a fair trade." Cale blinked behind his visor. "Sustenance, you think? You think you can offer me food?" He scoffed internally. He was a scavenger. He knew how to find his own credits, his own fuel, his own synth paste. This was crazy. The patterns flared brighter, a burst of golden light briefly overriding the blues and purples. It was painful, overwhelming. He flinched back. "Not food, human." The voice was sharper now, a discordant note in the hum. "Connection, resonance, a price for your intrusion." The glowing intensified around her, concentrated where the metal pinned her, and for a moment he thought he saw the metal warp, softening under the sheer force of her luminous presence. But she was still trapped. Her form flexed, delicate-looking but taut with strain. He felt a strange pull, a gravitational tug towards her light. It wasn't just visual, it was magnetic, biological. His own skin seemed to prickle, his heart rate spiking. This was dangerous. "Look, I don't know what you are or what you mean by connection or resonance, but I can get you out of that metal," Cale said, forcing himself to move closer, assessing the damage. The plating was thick, fused by ancient energy feedback. Standard cutting tools wouldn't work easily. He'd need the heavy-duty plasma cutter back on his ship. "It'll take time, and I charge for salvage, even live salvage." Her light pulsed slower now, the golden flare receding, leaving the deep blues and violets. "You will not charge me, human. You will assist me, and I will allow you the privilege of my payment. It will be worth more than any credits you scavenge from dead hulks." There it was again. The absolute unnerving certainty, the implicit dominance in her tone or hum or whatever it was. It was infuriating but also compelling. He'd never encountered anything like it. Most aliens he met were either hostile or desperate, rarely regal and trapped. He knelt beside the twisted metal, ignoring her pronouncement. He ran a gloved hand over the fused plating. It was bad. "All right, your radiance," he muttered, pulling a multi-tool from his belt. "Let's see what I can do without the heavy kit first. But don't expect miracles. This looks like it's been cooling for 100 years." He started working, the small cutting laser whining against the resistant metal. The alien woman watched him, her glowing patterns shifting, seemingly tracking his movements. He could feel her presence intensely, a hot, vibrant core in the cold, dead ship. The air around her felt different, somehow richer, cleaner despite the pervasive dust. He risked a glance at her upper body, which was free. Her posture was regal despite the predicament. Her head tilted slightly, revealing delicate sensory tendrils near her ears that pulsed with soft light, like tiny, independent hearts. He couldn't make out traditional facial features easily. Her form was too fluid, too defined by the internal light show. But her eyes, when she focused them on him, were striking large pools of pure, deep light that seemed to hold ancient wisdom and fierce impatience. "Your name, human?" the hum asked. "Kale." "Kale," she repeated, the sound unfamiliar, almost like a low chord struck on an alien instrument. "I am Zara, child of the great resonance, echo of the void." He paused his work, looking at her glowing form. "Right, Kale, scavenger, child of dirt probably, or stale synth paste." A flicker of something like amusement crossed the shifting patterns on her form, a ripple of brighter light through the blues. It was subtle, but he felt it, like a faint warmth against his skin. The small laser wasn't making enough headway. He sighed, standing up. "Look, Zara, this is too tough for my handheld. I need to go back to my ship, get the plasma cutter. It's maybe 5 minutes out." Her glowing patterns intensified, the blues deepening to indigo, the amethysts vibrating with a sharp, fast pulse. The hum in his head became insistent, demanding. "No, you will not leave, you will free me now." "I can't," he argued, feeling an inexplicable frustration building. "The tool isn't strong enough, it's basic physics." "Physics is malleable," she stated, her light flaring again, less painfully this time, but with immense pressure behind it. He felt it again, that strange pull, stronger this time, centered directly on his chest. It felt like his very atoms were being sung to, urged into resonance with her. It was overwhelming, beautiful, terrifying. His breath hitched. This was her connection, her payment. It felt less like sustenance and more like absorption. "What are you doing?" he choked out, stumbling back a step. Her light shifted, a new pattern emerging, a complex spiral of brilliant white light centered over her torso, radiating outwards. The hum intensified, filling his mind, pushing out all other thoughts. "I require strength, Kale. My own is temporarily diminished. I will borrow yours, a momentary resonance, a fair exchange for the service you will render." The white light pulsed faster and faster, drawing him in. He felt dizzy, disoriented. His sarcasm fled, replaced by sheer awe and dread. This was not a negotiation. It was an imperative. And something deep inside him, something he hadn't known was there, was responding to her call, vibrating in sync with her resonant hum. He felt his own energy draining away, not painfully, but like water flowing from a cup. His knees buckled. The last thing he saw before the light consumed his vision was Zara's glowing form, somehow even more vibrant now, and the sense of ancient power settling over him like a shroud. He wasn't just helping her, he was becoming a part of her, and she still hadn't told him exactly what her payment would entail. The thought was both terrifying and oddly, intensely exciting. Kale blinked, the harsh, sterile light of his ship's infirmary bay slowly resolving. He lay on the narrow cot, a faint ache throbbing behind his eyes. He sat up, rubbing his temples. The last thing he remembered was Zara's light, her hum, the feeling of his own energy being drawn out. He looked down at himself. He was clean, dressed in fresh clothes he didn't remember putting on. His scavenging suit was neatly folded on a nearby chair. He swung his legs off the cot, his muscles feeling surprisingly rested, though a lingering phantom resonance still vibrated in his core. "About time you rejoined the conscious realm, Kale." Zara's voice, clearer now, still with that underlying hum, came from across the small bay. She was standing by the viewport, looking out at the swirling nebula outside. She was no longer trapped. The metal seemed to have vanished, or perhaps she had moved it herself after whatever she did. Her form was fully visible now, standing tall and graceful. Her skin was covered in those intricate, flowing patterns of light, a constant, silent language. She didn't wear clothes, not in any way he understood. The light patterns themselves seemed to form a kind of covering, shifting and deepening in certain areas, creating contours and lines that were both utterly alien and disturbingly elegant. Her eyes, pools of luminous blue, turned towards him. The sensory tendrils near her ears pulsed softly. "You extracted me," she stated, as if he needed reminding. "No thanks to your initial reluctance." Kale stood, feeling a prickle of irritation. "I told you I needed the right tool, you just..." Suck the power out of me or something. She inclined her head slightly, the light patterns around her neck shifting in a way that felt like acknowledgement or perhaps dismissal. A temporary resonance bond, necessary to augment my own diminished reserves. Your energy signature was compatible if unrefined. He ran his hand through his hair. Look, I don't know what that was, but I don't make a habit of letting strangers tap into my life force. He walked over to her, keeping a wary distance. You said something about payment, connection, resonance. Her luminous eyes seemed to search his face, lingering on his eyes, then his mouth. The light patterns on her form shifted again, the blues deepening to an almost black indigo, while the amethysts flared with a slow, heavy pulse. The air around her grew warmer, thicker. He felt that strange pull again, but this time it was softer, more focused, less like being drained and more like being invited. Payment, she repeated, her voice dropping to a lower, more intimate hum. The kind you lack, the kind that transcends your need for credits or material goods. She took a step towards him, her movements fluid, silent. The light patterns on her upper body became more complex, swirling, drawing his gaze. He felt a blush creeping up his neck, a purely human reaction to what felt like intense scrutiny, intense interest. This wasn't the gaze of someone assessing a rescuer. It was the gaze of someone assessing a potential partner. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, his voice a little shaky. He was a scavenger. He traded scrap and information for survival. Connection, resonance, what was that even? You are incomplete, Kale, cut off, she stated, her voice low, vibrating directly in his chest now. I can fill the void as you filled mine temporarily. She was closer now, just a step away. He could feel the warmth radiating from her, smell a scent that was like ozone and something floral, something wild and utterly alien. The light patterns pulsed in time with his suddenly frantic heartbeat. This wasn't just talk, this felt like a physical preamble. Fill the void, he echoed, his mind racing, trying to catch up with whatever ancient, profound ritual this was supposed to be. How exactly do you plan on doing that? Her glowing form leaned closer. The patterns around her head and shoulders flared with brilliant white like a crown of light. The sensory tendrils pulsed rapidly. He felt her light, her energy, pressing against him, a wave of pure sensation washing over his nervous system. It was overwhelming, intoxicating. With this, she hummed, and then her form was against his, surprisingly firm beneath the flowing light. She wasn't human-shaped in any familiar way, but the points of contact felt incredibly right. Her core felt like a furnace of pure light and energy against his chest. He felt a jolt, not of pain, but of profound, overwhelming pleasure, as if every nerve ending in his body had suddenly been woken up. His breath caught in his throat. This was the connection. This was the resonance. It was like nothing he had ever experienced. His hands, acting on instinct, came up to rest on her upper arms, feeling the smooth, warm surface beneath the glowing patterns. The light shifted again, deepening to a rich crimson, pulsing with a powerful, steady rhythm. It felt like their heartbeats were synchronizing or merging. This was the payment. This was what she expected. And his body, despite his rational mind screaming caution, was responding with a fierce, urgent intensity he hadn't known he possessed. He was drowning in light, in sensation, in her presence, and he had no idea what to do next, except hold on. The crimson light pulsed, echoing the frantic beat of Kale's own heart against his ribs. Zara's form pressed closer, her inherent warmth radiating through him, chasing away the lingering chill of the derelict station. The hum in his head intensified, not words now, but pure feeling, a sense of immense power, ancient knowledge, and a startling, raw vulnerability. His hands, still resting on her upper arms, felt the delicate structure beneath the glowing surface. It was firm, yet yielding, unlike anything he'd ever touched. He could feel the subtle vibrations rippling through her form, part of her constant, silent communication. This level of physical closeness, this overwhelming sensory immersion was throwing his cautious, solitary world into complete disarray. He was a scavenger. He kept things simple, transactions clear. Find scrap, sell scrap, survive. Emotional entanglements were dangerous. Physical intimacy was a transaction, quick and impersonal. But this was something else. Zara, he managed, his voice hoarse, barely a whisper. The light on her form shifted, the crimson ebbing slightly, replaced by a swirling mix of deep blues and greens. Curiosity, questioning. The sensory tendrils near her ears pulsed faster. He felt her attention, sharp and focused, directed solely on him. This is your payment," he asked, the absurdity of it hitting him even as his body hummed with a desperate, foreign energy that felt like it was trying to merge with hers. Her luminous eyes, pools of shifting light, seemed to bore into his soul. "It is resonance," she stated, the hum soft, intimate. "The exchange of energy, of essence. A bond that transcends the physical, yet begins within it." She shifted slightly, her lower body still against his, the connection points intensifying the warmth, the vibration. He felt a deep ache building within him, a longing he hadn't known he had for this strange, overwhelming closeness. It was terrifying how quickly his carefully constructed emotional walls were crumbling under the sheer force of her presence. He hadn't let anyone this close, physically or emotionally, in years. Not since. He pushed the thought away. "A bond," he repeated, trying to wrap his human mind around the alien concept. Like bonding metals, fusion." A ripple of amused light, a shimmering silver, traced a line across her chest. A crude analogy, human but not entirely inaccurate. It is a merging, yes, of energies, of selves. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Merging of selves, what did that even mean? Did she expect him to become like her, or was she offering to become like him? The thought was dizzying. His human instincts, honed by years of survival among opportunistic and often hostile species, screamed caution. But his body, his very being, was vibrating with a profound sense of recognition, as if it had been waiting for this connection its entire existence. He felt the ache deepen, becoming almost unbearable, a desperate craving for more of this strange, potent energy exchange. Her luminous eyes held his, unwavering. The patterns on her form settled into a dominant pattern of swirling gold and emerald, radiating confidence, invitation. "Allow it, Kale," she hummed, the sound a siren song that resonated directly with the craving building inside him. "Allow the resonance, it will complete you." The word hung there, complete. He felt anything but complete. He felt fractured, adrift, a piece of salvage, himself in a vast, indifferent galaxy. Could this alien woman, with her light and her hum and her impossible demands, truly offer him completion? The idea was insane. And yet, the craving was overwhelming. He couldn't think, could barely breathe. His hands slid from her upper arms, following the lines of her form downwards, pulled by an irresistible force. He felt the vibrant life under his touch, the warm, smooth surface shifting subtly with her internal light show. He tangled his fingers in something that felt like delicate, rigid fins along her sides, structures that pulsed with light and sensation under his touch. A sharp intake of air, or maybe it was just a ripple of intensified light, emanated from Zara. The golden and emerald patterns flared, radiating outwards with immense power. The hum deepened, became a low growl of pure sensation. He felt the response in his own body, a sudden, violent surge of energy, hot and demanding, that mirrored the intensity of hers. This was no gentle merging. This was a collision, an explosion of need and sensation. He felt himself drawn into her light, into her heat, losing himself in the overwhelming alien intimacy of it all. He didn't know what this resonance was, or what it would cost him in the long run. But in that moment, pressed against her glowing form, drowning in her light and her hum and the impossible sensation she evoked, all he knew was that he needed more. The ship's recycled air felt suddenly too thin, the artificial gravity too weak. He felt weightless, suspended in a swirling vortex of light and sensation, bound only by the fierce, electric connection with the alien woman in his arms. The resonant hum filled the small cabin, weaving itself into the very fabric of Kale's being. He was pressed against Zara's form, the light emanating from her washing over him, through him, vibrating in concert with his own accelerated pulse. It wasn't just physical contact, it was an intermingling of energies, a sensory overload unlike anything he could have imagined. The delicate fins along her sides pulsed under his hands, the light shifting in complex, rapid sequences he couldn't interpret but felt on a purely instinctual level. Her warmth was intense, a comforting, overwhelming heat that seeped into his bones. The scent of ozone and alien flora filled his lungs, intoxicating, disorienting. He felt a profound connection forming, not through shared words or experiences, but through this raw, elemental exchange of light and vibration. It was terrifyingly fast, bypassing all his usual defenses. Years of emotional isolation, built stone by stone, were dissolving in the face of her radiant presence. "Zara," he whispered again, his voice thick with emotion he didn't understand. The gold and emerald light swirling across her form pulsed in response, the hum deepening into a sound that felt like a low purr of pure contentment. He could feel her awareness of him, every touch, every breath, every racing thought, as if their minds were linked through the light and vibration. This resonance she spoke of was more than he could have conceived. It wasn't just giving her energy, it was sharing existence. He felt a part of himself, a hidden, lonely core, reaching out, drawn to her vibrant completeness. He hadn't realized how starved he was for this kind of connection, for this absolute, unfiltered presence. His hands moved tentatively, exploring the contours of her form, guided by instinct and the shifting patterns of light. He felt structures he couldn't identify, surfaces that felt both smooth and intricately textured under his fingertips. Her form was alien, yes, but it was also perfect, perfectly adapted to this exchange, this resonance. The air around them grew heavy with latent energy, the hum escalating in intensity. It was building, pushing towards something. He didn't know what, but his body anticipated it with a fierce, urgent need that eclipsed all rational thought. He leaned into her, burying his face in the curve of her neck, feeling the warmth, the vibration, inhaling the intoxicating alien scent. His own light, faint and human, felt pale in comparison, but it felt brighter, more vibrant now, resonating with hers. Her hands, which he hadn't noticed moving, came up to rest on his shoulders, the touch soft but firm. He could feel the warmth of her light through his clothes, through his skin, down to his bones. It felt like being cradled in pure energy. "This is," he started, searching for a word, any word to describe the overwhelming experience. "This is incredible." The gold and emerald patterns on her shifted again, flowing like liquid light, settling into a pattern of interconnected circles radiating outwards from her core. It felt like acceptance, offering. "It is necessary," she hummed, her voice a low vibration that echoed through his chest. "For the bond, for the continuation." Continuation. What was she continuing? Her mission, her existence, their connection. The questions tumbled in his mind, but they were distant, muted by the intensity of the present moment. The physical desire was building, raw and undeniable, fueled by the resonance, by the sheer alienness and intimacy of their contact. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about something far deeper, far more fundamental. He was a scavenger who had stumbled upon a queen, an exile carrying secrets and burdens he couldn't comprehend. And she had chosen him, a broken, cynical human, for this profound, bewildering connection. His hands found their way to her waist, pulling her closer, desperate for more contact, more sensation. He felt the delicate structure give slightly under his touch, yielding to his need. The light on her form flared, the pattern swirling faster, intensifying the heat, the vibration, the hum. He felt his own energy surging, meeting hers, intertwining in a way that felt both natural and utterly alien. This was beyond anything physical he had ever known. It was a merging of essences, a dance of light and shadow and vibration that went down to the molecular level. He was lost in it, willingly lost, consumed by the radiant power of the alien woman in his arms, pulled deeper and deeper into her luminous world. He had asked for payment, expecting credits or maybe passage. She had given him resonance, and it was changing him in ways he couldn't yet understand but felt with every fiber of his being. And he still hadn't figured out exactly what she needed him for, beyond extracting her from that metal. But the urgency, the need emanating from her, suggested it was something vital, something that involved not just her survival but perhaps the survival of something far greater. And he was, inexplicably, inextricably, a part of it now. The resonance deepened, the hum filling the cabin, the light shifting and swirling around Zara's form with an intensity that bordered on violent beauty. Kale was lost in the sensation, the overwhelming connection that felt like his very atoms were being rearranged to match hers. The warmth was now heat, potent and demanding, pooling low in his gut, mirroring a similar intensity he felt emanating from her. His hands explored her form, tracing lines of pulsing light, discovering textures and structures that were utterly alien, yet felt profoundly responsive to his touch. The delicate fins along her sides, the subtle ridges that formed patterns across her back, all vibrated with a life force that felt ancient and powerful. He pressed closer, driven by an instinct older than his human form, a primal urge to merge with this incandescent being. Her light, the very essence of her, felt like the answer to a question he hadn't known he was asking his whole life, the question of belonging, of connection beyond the superficial. He had always been adrift, a solitary speck in the vastness of space. Now he felt anchored, tethered to a star. The crimson light pulsed faster now, joined by sharp, urgent flashes of white. The hum escalated, a high-pitched whine underpinning the deeper resonance. It felt like a signal, a build-up towards a critical point. "Zara," he breathed against her neck, the scent of her filling his senses, driving him wild. "What is this?" Her form arched against his, the light on her intensifying, casting dancing shadows across the small cabin. "The peak of resonance, Kale," she hummed, her voice strained, vibrating with fierce emotion. "The point of integration, where energies align, where futures merge. The words were enigmatic, but the intent was clear in the raw, demanding energy emanating from her. This wasn't just physical pleasure, it was a culmination, a joining on multiple levels. He felt his own energy surge, responding to her call, rising to meet the intensity of her light and vibration. His control was slipping, dissolving under the sheer force of her alien presence. He had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable, yet so utterly alive. He fumbled with the simple magnetic clasp of his salvaged pants, his hands shaking slightly. He needed this. Needed the release, the merging, needed to lose himself in the overwhelming reality of her. He shed the material barrier, the recycled fabric feeling suddenly foreign and restrictive. Zara's light seemed to focus on him, on his own form, bathing him in her radiant intensity. He felt her curiosity, her assessment, and beneath that, a potent, undeniable desire that mirrored his own. Her own light patterns shifted, concentrating in areas he instinctively understood to be significant, vital points of contact. The hum grew louder, a chorus of sensation, light and vibration that left no room for thought, only instinct and need. He tangled his fingers in the delicate structures near her lower back, feeling the powerful response ripple through her form, intensifying her light, accelerating the pulse of crimson and white. He felt her presence guide him, not with hands or words, but with the subtle shifts in her light, the variations in her hum, the pressure points of her form against his. This was an alien language of intimacy, and he was learning it with every touch, every breath, every pulse of resonant energy between them. He moved closer, pressing his body fully against hers, skin to light, flesh to radiating energy. The contact was electric, overwhelming. He felt a profound connection settle over him, a sense of being completely seen, completely accepted, not despite his human flaws but because of the resonance they shared. His own light, the faint spark of his human life force, felt magnified, amplified by her presence, burning brighter than it ever had before. He could feel her body reacting to his, not in human ways, but in a symphony of light and vibration that was both alien and profoundly intimate. He felt the friction of their forms, the heat, the pressure, building towards an inevitable climax. This wasn't just sex, it was a ritual, a joining of two disparate beings in a moment of pure, unadulterated resonance. He felt himself pushing past a threshold, surrendering to the overwhelming power of the moment, to the incandescent reality of the alien woman who had captured him, body and soul, in her radiant embrace. The hum reached a crescendo, a symphony of light and vibration that filled the cabin, their universe contracting to the space between their bodies. He felt himself plunging into the heart of her light, meeting her raw, powerful energy with his own desperate surge. It was a release, an explosion, a fusion that left him breathless, trembling, utterly spent, yet filled with a strange, radiant energy that felt both alien and deeply, inherently his. He collapsed against her, his forehead resting against her shoulder, the pulsing light on her form now soft, flowing like gentle waves of blue and silver. The intense hum subsided, leaving behind a low, comforting resonance that vibrated through the cabin, through him. He lay there, suspended in the aftermath, feeling the profound, bewildering connection that now bound him to the alien queen. He had come seeking salvage and found something infinitely more valuable and infinitely more dangerous. After the intense peak of resonance, the cabin settled into a quiet hum, the light on Zara's form shifting to soft, calming hues of deep blue and gentle silver. Kale lay against her, his breathing slowly returning to normal, the frantic pounding of his heart easing. He felt depleted, yes, but also strangely full. The void she had spoken of, the one she promised to fill, felt less gaping now, replaced by a warm, resonant presence that lingered deep within him. Stirred slightly, lifting his head. Zara's luminous eyes, pools of soft blue light, watched him. He couldn't read human emotions easily on her alien form, but the gentle flow of light, the steady, comforting hum felt like contentment, or perhaps something deeper, something more profound. That was, he started, searching for words, his voice still rough. He trailed off. What word could possibly describe that? It wasn't just pleasure, though it was certainly that on a level he'd never imagined. It was communion, revelation, fusion. Resonance, Zara supplied, the hum soft and steady. As I said, a necessary exchange. He pushed himself up, careful not to leave her too abruptly. He saw the lingering glow on his own skin where he had touched her, a faint, shimmering blue that mirrored her light. It faded quickly, but the memory of the feeling, the energy exchange, remained. Necessary for what? He asked, pulling his discarded pants back on, the familiar action feeling absurdly normal after the extraordinary intimacy they had just shared. What were you doing trapped in that hulk? Who's hunting you? Her light shifted again, the soft blues deepening to indigo, a ripple of sharp violet running through them. The comfortable hum took on a subtle edge of tension. I carry something vital, Kale, something that cannot fall into the wrong hands. She gestured with a graceful movement of her hand, the light on her fingers pulsing softly. My pursuers seek to exploit it, to weaponize it. What is it? He pressed. An artifact, data, she hesitated, her luminous eyes fixed on his face. The violet ripple intensified, it felt like reluctance, distrust. It is a key to a source of energy, of consciousness that predates your species by cycles. She didn't elaborate, and he knew instinctively that pushing her for more details now would be fruitless. Her people, whatever they were, clearly guarded their secrets fiercely, and she was an exile hunted. That explained her situation, but not why she had chosen him for this resonance. And you needed me to get out of that metal, he asked. Or for that, he gestured vaguely between them. The indigo light softened slightly, the violet receding. Both, she stated simply. My own energy was depleted from other efforts. The metal amplified certain dampening frequencies. I needed external resonance to break free, and the deeper exchange ensures the bond required for what comes next. What comes next? The air in the cabin suddenly felt cold despite the lingering warmth between them. He had just stumbled into something far larger and far more dangerous than a simple salvage operation. What comes next? He repeated, feeling a knot of apprehension tightening in his stomach. Protection, she said, the hum regaining its authoritative edge, the gold returning to swirl with the blue. My pursuers will track my energy signature. They know I am free. I need safe passage, Kale, to the Proxima Sector, to the Veil Nebula. His blood ran cold. The Proxima Sector was deep space, uncharted territory, dangerous even for the most seasoned pilots. Veil Nebula was rumored to be a graveyard of ancient civilizations, haunted by forgotten horrors. Proxima, the Veil, he scoffed, trying to inject his usual sarcasm, but it fell flat. That's a suicide run. My ship isn't built for that kind of journey. It's a scavenger's rust bucket barely holding together in regulated space. Zara's form straightened, radiating an air of command that was both intimidating and alluring. The golden light intensified, swirling faster. "Your ship is adequate," she hummed, her voice firm. "And your skills are sufficient. You navigated the debris field, evaded patrols." Those were corporate patrols looking for derelict claims, not hardened mercenaries or slaver fleets hunting a glowing alien queen with ancient keys, he argued, feeling a rising sense of panic. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a protector of galactic secrets. He was just Kale, the scavenger. "You are bound to me now, Kale," she stated, her luminous eyes holding his unwavering. "By resonance, by exchange. Your fate is now intertwined with mine." His breath hitched, bound. The word settled over him, heavy and inescapable. He felt the truth of it deep within his core, where her energy still resonated with his. The payment wasn't just a fleeting moment of intense intimacy. It was a brand, a link forged at the deepest level. He was tied to her now, whether he liked it or not. And her future involved running, fighting, and a journey into the most dangerous parts of the galaxy. He had just gone from being a solitary scavenger to being the unwilling protector of a galactic secret, bound by a bond forged in light and resonance with an alien queen. His life had just gotten infinitely more complicated, and potentially infinitely shorter. He looked at her radiant, alien beauty, at the unwavering certainty in her luminous eyes. He was bound. And somehow, despite the fear, despite the danger, a part of him, the part that had just been completed by her resonance, didn't entirely regret it. He had never felt this alive, or this terrified. The low hum of Zara's presence filled the ship's cockpit, a constant, subtle vibration that resonated through Kale's bones as he piloted them away from the derelict field. He could feel her behind him, seated in the co-pilot's chair, her form a swirling tableau of soft blues and greens as she observed the starfield scrolling past the viewports. The earlier tension had eased, replaced by a quiet intensity, a shared focus on the daunting journey ahead. He hadn't agreed to take her to Proxima, not explicitly, but the bound by resonance thing felt less like a choice and more like a physical reality he couldn't ignore. He felt her presence within him, a faint echo of the powerful surge they had shared, a constant reminder of the connection they had forged. "How do you know where to go?" Kale asked, breaking the silence that felt thick with unspoken implications. "The veil is uncharted. Even major corporations avoid it." Zara shifted, the light patterns on her arms flowing like currents. "The key guides me," she hummed, the sound soft, "and my own internal navigation is tied to specific cosmic frequencies." She didn't offer to show him the key or explain how she navigated using cosmic frequencies. It was another layer of her alien mystery, another piece of the puzzle he was now inextricably linked to. He sighed, running a hand over the worn controls of his ship. "This ship barely makes it through standard jump points. Proxima Sector jump points are unstable, unpredictable. It's called the Edge for a reason." "Your ship is resilient," she stated, her tone flat, unconcerned. "And your piloting, while rough, is effective." "Effective at hauling scrap, maybe," he muttered. "Not dodging gravimetric anomalies or whatever other horrors are waiting out there." He glanced back at her. The blue and green patterns were calm, steady. She radiated an almost unnerving confidence, a stark contrast to his own rising anxiety. "You worry too much, Kale," she hummed. Was that judgment, or just an observation? With her it was hard to tell. "Worrying keeps me alive," he retorted. "You might be used to running from things that want to weaponize your key, but I'm used to running from things that want my ship or my skin." The light on her form shifted, a ripple of brighter green crossing her chest. It felt like contemplation. "Amusement? Survival methods differ," she conceded. "But the goal is shared, to reach the destination intact." Intact. He focused on the controls, guiding the ship through a particularly volatile patch of space dust. The silence returned, punctuated only by the hum of the engines and the low, resonant vibration of Zara's presence. He could feel her watching him, her luminous gaze a physical weight on his back. He wondered what she saw when she looked at him. Not just a human scavenger, surely. The resonance bond had changed something. He felt different, sharper somehow, more aware of the subtle energies around him, had some of her completeness rubbed off on him. The thought was both intriguing and unsettling. A notification pinged on his console, proximity alert. "Ship closing," he announced, his hand moving instinctively towards the defensive systems. "Not corporate, energy signature is messy, scrambled." Zara was instantly beside him, a fluid, graceful movement. The light patterns on her form intensified, swirling with urgent reds and yellows. The hum deepened, vibrating with alarm. "They have found us," she stated, her voice sharp, demanding. "My pursuers, they tracked the resonance signature." Of course they had. The intense energy exchange hadn't been subtle, he should have known. "Right, because things weren't complicated enough," he muttered, slamming his hand on the acceleration control. The ship lurched forward, engines screaming in protest. "Strap in, child of resonance. Time to see how effective my rough piloting is against whatever mess of a signature is chasing us." Zara didn't strap in. She simply flowed back to the co-pilot chair, bracing herself with one hand on the console. Her luminous eyes were fixed on the main view screen, where a chaotic energy reading was rapidly resolving into a distorted ship shape. "They use dampeners," she explained, her voice tight with tension. "And energy nets. Do not let them enclose us." "Energy nets, great," Kale grumbled, swerving violently to avoid a piece of derelict debris. As if regular old plasma cannons weren't enough, the chasing ship fired. A chaotic, crackling energy beam shot past their viewport, momentarily blinding him with its raw power. "Scratch that," he said, his voice grim. "They brought the fancy toys." His knuckles were white on the controls. This wasn't like evading corporate patrols. This was serious. And he was tied to it irrevocably, by a bond of light and resonance with the alien queen at his side. The chase was on, and their shared, fragile future depended entirely on his ability to keep his rust-bucket ship in one piece and stay ahead of the mess of energy signatures pursuing them. He risked a glance at Zara. Her light patterns were a chaotic swirl of reds and yellows, radiating fierce determination and a primal fear. He reached out, covering her hand on the console for just a second. "We'll make it," he said, the words surprising even himself. Her luminous eyes met his, and for a fleeting moment the chaotic light on her hand solidified into a steady, reassuring gold under his touch. Then the chasing ship fired again, and he had to focus everything he had on keeping them alive. The chase was a brutal ballet of evasive maneuvers and desperate bursts of speed through the treacherous debris field. Kale pushed the rust bucket to its absolute limits, systems groaning, hull plates protesting. Zara remained beside him, a silent, radiating presence, her light patterns a constant indicator of the external threat and her internal state, chaotic swirls of red and yellow when they were in immediate danger, deepening to a tense indigo when the pursuers gained on them, flashing with sharp white alerts when weapons locked onto their signature. He could feel her fear, her determination, her focus, amplified by the resonance bond that still hummed beneath his skin. It was like having a second set of senses, tuned to the alien frequencies of her world. "They're adapting to our evasion patterns," Kale grunted, wrestling the controls as a near-miss sent tremors through the ship. "These guys are good. They are relentless," Zara hummed, her voice tight. "They have hunted my kind before. They seek to control the key." "Well, they're not getting it," Kale said fiercely, surprising himself with the depth of his conviction. He was bound to her now. Her fight was his fight. Thought settled surprisingly comfortably in his mind. Maybe the completeness wasn't just about physical or emotional resonance. Maybe it was about finding something to fight for, someone to protect. He hadn't had that in a long time. He risked another glance at her. Her luminous eyes were narrowed, scanning the tactical display he'd rigged up. He noticed a new pattern on her form, a series of small, interconnected triangles of deep violet near her temples. It felt like intense concentration. "There," she said suddenly, pointing a glowing finger at a section of the debris field ahead. "A localized gravimetric anomaly. Unstable, but it could mask our signature. It will require precise navigation." Kale studied the reading. The anomaly was a chaotic mess of fluctuating gravity pockets and temporal distortions. Navigating it would be like threading a needle through a blender running at high speed. One wrong move, and they'd be torn apart or scattered across time. "Precise is my middle name," he lied smoothly, pushing down the surge of fear that tightened his gut. "Hold on." He adjusted course, aiming the ship directly for the swirling anomaly. The pursuers, wary of the distortion field, hesitated, their energy signatures slowing. It was a gamble, but it was their best shot. "Maintaining course," he announced, gripping the controls tightly. The ship entered the anomaly. The viewports warped, stars streaking and bending. Gravitational forces tugged at the hull from multiple directions simultaneously. Alarms blared on the console: structural stress, temporal drift, energy fluctuations. Cale fought the controls, his muscles straining, relying on instinct and years of navigating hazardous environments. He could feel Zara's presence beside him, a steady point of light and resonance in the swirling chaos. Her light patterns were a kaleidoscope of intense, rapid pulses: red for danger, white for focus, a new shimmering gold radiating outwards, flooding him with a sense of calm, of shared strength. It was her supporting him, bolstering his resolve through their bond. "Stay with me," he muttered, the words directed at her, at the ship, at himself. Almost through. The distorted viewports began to stabilize. The gravitational tugs lessened. The alarms quieted. They were emerging from the other side of the anomaly. He checked the tactical display. The pursuers' signatures were still there, but they were further back, cautious, perhaps damaged by the edges of the anomaly. They had bought themselves some time. Cale slumped back in the pilot's chair, letting out a shaky breath. "Well," he said, trying for lightness, "that was invigorating." He looked at Zara. The chaotic light patterns on her form settled into the soft blues and greens again, but the intense golden light was still there, shimmering around her, radiating outwards towards him. She met his gaze, her luminous eyes filled with an emotion he couldn't quite place: relief, respect, something deeper. "You are a skilled pilot, Cale," she hummed, her voice low, resonant with sincerity. "More than merely rough." A genuine compliment from the alien queen who had just linked his fate to hers. Warm feeling spread through his chest, separate from the lingering resonance. He had risked his life for her, pushed himself and his ship to the breaking point, and she saw it, she acknowledged it. "Yeah, well," he said, a small, tired smile touching his lips, "just trying to keep up with my passenger." The light on her form shifted again, a ripple of soft violet and rose flowing through the blue. It felt gentle, almost shy. He had seen her radiating power, fear, determination, command. But this was new. And it felt profoundly intimate. The bond between them, forged in light and danger, was deepening, evolving beyond the initial shock and necessity. They were more than just rescuer and rescued, protector and protected. They were Cale and Zara, navigating the stars together, bound by something neither of them fully understood, but felt with every fiber of their being. The quiet intimacy of the moment, after the intense external threat, was a different kind of tension, pulling them closer in a way that felt both fragile and unbreakable. The quiet hum of Zara's presence settled into a rhythm with the ship's engines as they put distance between themselves and their pursuers. Cale set a course towards the general direction of the Proxima sector, knowing it would be a long, grueling journey through mostly uncharted space. He felt the weariness deep in his bones, but also a strange sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was protecting something vital, something precious. He was protecting her. He got up from the pilot's chair, stretching his aching muscles. "I need food," he announced, walking towards the small galley. Synth-paced surprise coming right up. Zara followed him, her movements silent and graceful. The light patterns on her form were soft blues and greens, occasionally rippling with gentle gold, the color of trust he was beginning to associate with it. "Synth-paced," she hummed, curiosity in her tone. "Explain." "It's recycled nutrients," he explained, opening a cabinet. "Stuff scraped from the edges of edible, tastes like regret." He pulled out a tube of the grayish paste. "Not exactly gourmet, but it keeps you alive." Zara watched him as he prepared it, her luminous eyes tracking his every move. He could feel her intense focus, the depth of her alien curiosity about his mundane human existence. It was unnerving and strangely flattering. "Your species requires such processing?" she asked, the hum reflecting her question. "Our energy is inherent, drawn from resonance with the cosmic background." "Lucky you," Cale muttered, squeezing a portion onto a tray. "We need calories and caffeine, lots of caffeine." He grabbed a mug and started brewing synth coffee. "So," he said, needing to break the quiet again, needing to understand more about the being he was now linked to. "You said you were exiled. Why?" Zara hesitated. The golden light on her form flickered, replaced by a ripple of dark violet. "It is a complex matter," she finally hummed. "Our society is structured around the great resonance. Certain knowledge, certain artifacts are guarded with absolute certainty. To remove one, even for protection, is considered a profound transgression. You took the key to protect it," Kale guessed. "From the ones hunting you." "Yes," she confirmed, the violet receding, the gold returning. "They seek to corrupt its purpose, to use its power not for resonance but for subjugation, for control." "So you stole it to save it," Kale said, stirring his coffee. It made a strange kind of sense in a universe filled with desperate measures. "And your people exiled you for it." "They do not understand the depth of the threat," she said, a hint of sadness in her hum. "Or perhaps they fear the change that protecting it might require." He looked at her, really looked at her. An alien queen, cast out by her own kind for doing what she believed was right, carrying a burden that could shape the fate of others. It mirrored in a strange, cosmic way some of his own past, running, hiding, carrying scars. "I get it," he said quietly, taking a sip of his terrible coffee. Zara tilted her head, the sensory tendrils near her ears pulsing softly. "You understand?" "Yeah," he said, looking out the viewport at the endless stars. Sometimes you have to break the rules to do the right thing, and sometimes that means ending up alone." The golden light on her form intensified, radiating outwards, warming him from across the galley. He felt her understanding, her connection, bridging the vast gulf between their species. It was a silent conversation, conducted through light and resonance and shared experience. "You are not alone now, Kale," she hummed, her voice soft, intimate. He looked at her, met her luminous gaze. The truth of her words settled deep within him. He wasn't alone, not anymore. He had a purpose, a direction, and an alien woman bound to him by resonance who saw him, truly saw him, in a way no one ever had before. He managed a small smile. "Yeah," he said, raising his mug in a silent toast. "Guess not." The moment felt fragile, precious, a bubble of quiet intimacy in the vast, dangerous darkness of space. But the low thrum of the ship's engines, the distant shimmer of the stars, and the ever-present hum of Zara's light were constant reminders of the journey ahead and the dangers that still lurked in the shadows, tracking their every move. Their moment of peace was earned, but it was temporary. And the resonance bond, while comforting, was also a beacon in the dark. The journey towards the Proxima sector was a test of endurance for Kale and the rust bucket. Days bled into weeks, marked by the ship's rhythmic hum and the constant, low-frequency resonance of Zara's presence. He navigated asteroid fields, dodged unpredictable solar flares, and plotted complex courses through sectors with incomplete star charts. Zara was a silent, unwavering presence beside him in the cockpit for long stretches, her luminous form a source of calm in the dark. Her light patterns shifted with the subtle changes in their environment, a faint green tracing anomalies, a slow pulse of blue indicating clear space ahead. He no longer felt her presence as just a passenger. She was an integral part of the ship now, a living co-pilot who sensed the universe in ways his human senses couldn't. Their dialogue, while still high frequency, had shifted. The initial awkwardness and sparring had given way to something quieter, laced with shared understanding and developing trust. He learned more about her, not through direct exposition, which she still avoided regarding her culture and the key specifics, but through her reactions, her observations, the subtle shifts in her light and hum. He learned she was fiercely protective, deeply connected to the cosmic web she spoke of, and carried a profound sense of responsibility for the key and its true purpose. And she learned about him, about his solitary life, the choices that had led him to scavenging, the unspoken grief that sometimes shadowed his eyes. She didn't pry, but her presence, her resonance, seemed to invite a level of emotional honesty he hadn't thought himself capable of. There were quiet moments in the small galley, sharing the synth paste, which she found fascinating if baffling, or sipping his terrible coffee. These were times when the external threats receded, and the intimacy between them deepened. It wasn't always overtly physical after that first explosive encounter. Sometimes it was just sitting in comfortable silence, the shared resonance a quiet conversation all its own. Other times, driven by the lingering physical connection or a surge of loneliness in the vastness of space, they would find themselves drawn together again. It was never just physical release. Each instance of intimacy was laced with the profound, bewildering energy exchange, a deeper merging of light and vibration that left Kale feeling both exhausted and oddly rejuvenated, his connection to Zara growing stronger, more intricate with every shared pulse of light. He was becoming attuned to her emotional language, learning to interpret the subtle shifts in her light, the nuances in her hum. A flicker of rose meant confusion. A flash of gold meant approval or trust. A deep indigo meant serious focus or concern. He found himself relying on it, letting it guide his actions, his words. It was an alien way of communicating, but it felt more honest, more direct than any human language he knew. One cycle, while Kale was checking the ship's outdated navigation sensors, a critical system failure alarm blared. "Shields down," he yelled, rushing back to the console. A vital energy conduit had overloaded, fried by a stray cosmic ray burst they hadn't detected. "I can reroute power from non-essential systems, but it'll take time. We're exposed." Zara was instantly at the console, her light patterns a frantic, urgent swirl of red and white. "The dampeners," she hummed, her voice sharp. "They can track us now." He hadn't considered that. Their pursuers were still out there, perhaps trailing them at a distance, waiting for an opportunity. And now they had won. Kale worked frantically, his fingers flying across the sparking panel. "Almost there. Just need to splice this override." A jolt ran through the ship. Not a physical impact, but a sickening energy drain. "They've hit us with an energy net," Kale swore, feeling the ship's systems flicker, power levels plummeting. "They're trying to disable us." "Kale," Zara's hum was sharp, filled with a sudden, intense pain. He looked at her. The brilliant light on her form was fading, dimming rapidly, leaving behind only faint, struggling tendrils of blue. She swayed on her feet, clutching her chest. "The key. The net is interfering with my connection." The resonance between them flickered, weakening, replaced by a jarring discordance. The protective bubble of her presence, the sense of being tethered, vanished, leaving him feeling suddenly vulnerable, exposed, adrift in the cold, dark void. This was it. The mid-story conflict. Not a cultural misunderstanding or a betrayal, but a forced physical vulnerability, a direct attack on Zara's source of power and their shared bond. His heart hammered against his ribs. He could fix the shields, maybe even fight off the pursuers, but he couldn't fix her. Her fading light, the weakening hum, felt like a vital piece of himself was dying. And the thought of losing her, of being alone again, felt like a far greater threat than any energy net or chasing ship. He had to save her. But how? Zara's light continued to fade, the vibrant colors draining away, leaving only a faint, shimmering outline of blue and silver. The resonant hum in Kale's core weakened with her, replaced by a jarring sense of emptiness and discord. The energy net clamped down on the ship, draining power, distorting their systems. Alarms shrieked, and the distorted shape of the pursuer's vessel loomed on the main screen, closer now, emboldened by their vulnerability. "Zara!" Kale knelt beside her, reaching out. Her form felt cool under his touch, the radiant warmth gone. Her luminous eyes were dim, struggling to hold their light. "The net, it blocks the cosmic frequencies," she whispered, her voice weak, the hum barely audible. "My connection, to the great resonance, is severed." The great resonance. The source of her power, her life force, her connection to the universe. And the energy net was designed to cut her off from it. He looked at the tactical display. The net was a web of chaotic, high-frequency energy, enveloping the ship like a shroud. It was designed to disrupt alien energy signatures, to isolate beings like Zara. His human technology was faltering under the strain, but it wasn't designed to be severed from some cosmic web. Zara was. "I need resonance, Kale," she whispered, reaching out a hand, her glowing fingers trembling. "A strong, pure resonance, to break through the dampening field. Just enough." Kale understood instantly. Their bond, the intense, shared energy exchange they had experienced. It wasn't just about physical intimacy. It was about creating a powerful, localized resonance, a signal strong enough to cut through the interference of the energy net. It was a gamble. It had drained him before, though not to this extent. Doing it now, with her weakened, with the net actively working against them, could be devastating. But watching her fade, feeling the vital connection between them dying, felt like a death sentence for them both. "Okay," he said, his voice steady despite the fear gripping him. "Okay, Zara, we do it." He took her hand, wrapping his fingers around hers. Her skin felt delicate, cool, the light struggling to pulse faintly under his touch. He pulled her gently towards him, cradling her against his chest. Her fading light was a stark contrast to his own mundane, non-luminous form, but he focused on the feeling deep within him, the echo of her resonance that still lingered. He closed his eyes, concentrating, willing his energy, his focus, his very being to connect with hers. He felt the resistance of the energy net, like pushing against a thick, invisible wall. It was fighting him, fighting her, trying to keep them isolated, powerless. "Focus on the bond, Kale," Zara whispered, her voice a faint hum against his ear. "The connection we forged, find it, amplify it," he focused. He thought of the light, the warmth, the overwhelming sensation of merging. He thought of the fleeting moments of peace, the shared understanding, the fierce determination in her luminous eyes. He poured all of it, all the fear, the need, the unexpected depth of feeling he had developed for her, into the connection between them. Slowly, tentatively, he felt it. A faint spark deep within him, responding to the struggling light within her. It was the echo of their shared resonance, fragile but persistent. He focused on that spark, fanning it, willing it to grow. He felt her presence responding, a faint warmth returning to her form, the struggling blue light pulsing slightly stronger. "Yes," she breathed. "That's it, Kale, amplify." He intensified his focus, pouring more energy, more raw will into the bond. It was like pushing against a physical barrier, straining every muscle, every nerve ending. The energy net seemed to push back, the chaotic frequencies intensifying, making his head ache, his vision swim. But the spark between them was growing, fanned by their combined will, fueled by the desperate need for connection. Her faint blue light began to brighten, a thin thread of silver joining it, pulsing faster. The low hum, which had almost vanished, returned, weak but present, vibrating deep within his chest. "Stronger, Kale," she urged, her voice gaining a fraction of its former strength. "Push against the resistance, force the resonance." He gritted his teeth, pushing harder. He felt his own energy being drawn out again, not just his physical strength, but something deeper, something tied to his core identity. But it wasn't being drained by her. It was being shared, amplified, becoming part of the powerful, growing signal they were creating together. The space between their bodies seemed to shimmer with latent energy. Her blue and silver light brightened further, pushing outwards, meeting the chaotic frequencies of the energy net. He felt the resistance lessen just slightly, a crack in the wall. "Now," Zara hummed, a burst of strength in her voice. "Release." Kale didn't understand intellectually, but his body did. He let go. Not of her, but of the effort, of the straining, allowing the built-up, shared resonance to flow freely, to explode outwards. A wave of pure, incandescent light erupted from them, originating from the point where their bodies met. It wasn't just her light, it was their light, a blinding flash of blue, silver, and a brilliant, unexpected gold radiating outwards, crashing against the energy net. The net buckled. The chaotic frequencies shrieked in protest. For a moment, the light of their resonance overwhelmed the dampening field, creating a small, temporary bubble of clear space around the ship. Zara gasped, a sound of pure relief. Her light flooded back, vibrant and strong, the blues and golds swirling with renewed power. The hum returned, filling the cabin with its comforting, powerful resonance. Kale collapsed against her, breathless, trembling, but exhilarated. They had done it. They had broken through the net, not with technology, but with their bond. Their shared resonance, forged in intimacy and tested by danger, was powerful enough to challenge alien technology. He looked at Zara, at her radiant form, now glowing with full strength. Her luminous eyes met his, and in them he saw not just gratitude, but awe and something that looked a lot like love. The danger wasn't over. The pursuers were still out there, but they had faced a critical test, and their bond had held. And in that moment, lying in the arms of the alien queen, surrounded by her light, Kale knew, with absolute certainty, that he wasn't running away from his past anymore. He was running towards a future with her. The energy net dissipated, shattered by the unexpected surge of resonant light. The alarms on the Rustbucket's console fell silent, replaced by the steady hum of restored systems. Kale lay against Zara, their shared light fatting from the air, leaving only her natural radiance. He was exhausted, every muscle aching, but a profound sense of relief washed over him. They were safe. For now. "You did it," he whispered, his voice hoarse. Zara stirred, pulling back slightly, her light settling into soft, flowing blues and greens. The dominant gold was still there, a constant shimmer around her, radiating towards him. "We did it, Kale," she corrected, her hum soft but firm. "It was our resonance, amplified by your unexpected capacity for connection." Unexpected capacity. He managed a weak smile. He hadn't expected it either. He had spent years building walls, convinced he was better off alone. But Zara, with her light and her demands and her fierce vulnerability, had shown him that he was capable of more, capable of connection, capable of fighting for someone else. "Your key?" he asked, pushing himself upright. "Is it?" "It is stable," she confirmed, a ripple of relief flowing through her light patterns. "The connection was briefly re-established through our bond, enough to stabilize its frequency." She looked at the main screen. The pursuer's distorted signature was still there but retreating. The sudden, powerful burst of resonance had clearly startled them, maybe even damaged their net projector. "They will return," she stated, her voice serious. "They know the resonance is powerful, they will adapt." Kale nodded. He knew the game. They had won this round, but the fight wasn't over. The journey to Proxima, to the Veil Nebula, was still ahead, and now their pursuers knew the true nature of the key she carried, not just an artifact, but a living connection, amplified by her bond with a human. This made him a target too, not just as her pilot, but as a component of her power. "We need to jump," Kale said, getting shakily to his feet. He needed to get them out of this system into less tracked space. "As deep as we can, as fast as possible." "Agreed," Zara hummed, standing beside him. The gold light pulsed, radiating determination. He went back to the pilot's chair, his muscles protesting. Zara settled back into the co-pilot's seat, her presence a steady anchor beside him. He felt her watching him as he went through the pre-jump sequence, checking systems, plotting the course. His hands trembled slightly on the controls, partly from exhaustion, partly from the lingering effects of the resonance surge, partly from the sheer, terrifying reality of their situation. But there was no turning back now. Their fates were inextricably linked. He engaged the jump drive. The familiar disorientation washed over him as the ship tore a hole in space-time. For a few moments, the cabin was filled with the swirling non-space of the jump, the only constant the steady hum of the engines and the comforting, vibrant resonance of the alien woman beside him. They emerged into a new star system, dark and unfamiliar. He scanned the area, empty. No immediate threats. They had bought themselves more time. He killed the engines, letting the ship drift in the silent void. Exhaustion hit him like a physical blow. He leaned his forehead against the cool metal of the console, closing his eyes. A moment later, he felt Zara's presence close beside him. Her light was soft, the hum a gentle vibration against his skin as she pressed herself against his side. He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. She felt warm, radiant, intensely alive. The shared resonance was quieter now, a gentle thrumming between them, a silent acknowledgement of the bond that had just saved their lives. "Thank you, Kale," she hummed, her voice soft, resonating with deep sincerity. "For the resonance, for not abandoning me." "Didn't exactly have a choice," he mumbled into her shoulder, a weak attempt at his usual sarcasm. But it didn't feel sarcastic, it felt true. He hadn't had a choice. Not once he had seen her light, felt her hum, felt that strange, undeniable pull. And even if he had, he wasn't sure he would have chosen differently. Not after this. He held her tighter, breathing in the alien scent of ozone and flora, feeling the steady pulse of her light against his chest. They were together now, bound by more than just circumstance or a shared enemy. Bound by resonance, by a connection that had defied logic and saved their lives. The future was uncertain, dangerous, and miles away in the heart of the unknown, but facing it alone felt impossible now. With her by his side, bathed in her light, feeling the deep hum of their shared existence, Kale felt, for the first time in a long time, like he might just make it. They had survived the net, deepened their bond, and were heading towards the unknown together. Whatever the Veil Nebula held, they would face it as one. And in that moment, drifting in the silent dark, that felt like enough. The days that followed the energy net attack were a mixture of weary travel and deepening intimacy. Kale and Zara fell into a rhythm dictated by the needs of the journey and the growing needs of their bond. Long hours spent piloting through dark, empty space were interspersed with periods of rest, repairs, and the quiet moments that allowed their connection to flourish. Kale continued to navigate, his skills honed by years of scraping by, now focused on a singular, vital purpose. He was no longer just keeping himself alive, he was keeping them alive. His ship, the Rust Bucket, felt less like a piece of junk and more like a fragile vessel carrying something infinitely precious. Zara's presence was a constant, her light a shifting landscape of emotion and awareness. She spent hours observing him, learning his human habits, asking questions that were sometimes profound, sometimes baffling in their alien perspective. She was endlessly curious about his past, about human culture, about the mundane details of his life before her. He found himself opening up, sharing pieces of his history he hadn't spoken of in years, the reasons he became a scavenger, the losses that had shaped him, the quiet loneliness that had been his constant companion. He spoke, and she listened, her light patterns calm and receptive, the golden resonance radiating acceptance and understanding. In turn, she shared more about her own world, speaking of the great resonance not just as a source of power, but as a fundamental aspect of existence, a cosmic consciousness her people were attuned to. She spoke of their rituals, their history, their deep connection to the universe itself. She still guarded the specifics of the key and her exile, but the context of her culture gave him a deeper appreciation for the burden she carried and the courage it took to defy her own kind. Their physical intimacy became less about the explosive release of that first resonance and more about a tender, deliberate exploration of their bond. It wasn't just a physical act. It was a continuation of the energy exchange, a reaffirmation of their connection. Lying together in the small, functional bunk, bathed in the soft, pulsing light of her form, felt profoundly safe, profoundly right. He would trace the patterns on her skin, feeling the subtle vibrations beneath his fingertips, learning the language of her touch. She would hum low, resonant sounds that vibrated through his body, filling him with a sense of peace and belonging. The gold light, the light of their connection, would deepen, swirling and intensifying around them, sealing their bond. He felt the completion she spoke of on a deeper level now. It wasn't just about filling a void. It was about integration, about two disparate beings finding harmony, finding strength in their shared existence. He was no longer just Kale, the lone scavenger. He was Kale, bound to Zara, protector of the key, navigating the vast unknown with an alien queen who saw his soul. But the journey was long and the dangers were ever present. Even in the quiet moments, Kale felt the tension, the knowledge that their pursuers were still out there, adapting, planning. He checked the sensors constantly, his hand never far from the controls. He was learning to trust Zara's alien senses, her ability to detect threats on frequencies he couldn't perceive, but the human part of him remained vigilant, cautious. One cycle, deep in an empty sector, the ship's anomaly detector flared red. Not a chasing ship this time, but a massive, localized distortion field, several light-years across. "What is that?" Kale asked, frowning at the readings. "It's not on any charts." Zara was beside him instantly, her light shifting to a vibrant, alarmed violet. The hum in his head sharpened, buzzing with intensity. "The Veil," she whispered, her voice laced with awe and trepidation. "We are here. This is the outer edge, the Veil Nebula, the rumored graveyard of ancient civilizations. The destination." Kale stared at the screen. The distortion field was a swirling, chaotic mess of energy signatures, unlike anything he had ever seen. It looked less like a nebula and more like a wound in the fabric of space. "Right," he said, his mouth dry. "Guess we found it." The tension in the cabin ratcheted up. Reaching the Veil was their goal, but it was also entering the heart of the unknown, the place Zara's pursuers feared but also sought. Their sanctuary and potentially their tomb. He looked at Zara, at her luminous form, radiating a mixture of resolve and fear. "Ready?" he asked, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. Her luminous eyes met his, filled with the light of ancient purpose and shared destiny. The gold light around her intensified, enveloping him in its warm, reassuring glow. "Ready, Kale," she hummed, her voice strong. "Together." He nodded, taking a deep breath. He engaged the forward thrusters, aiming the rust bucket towards the swirling, terrifying beauty of the Veil Nebula. The journey had brought them here, bound them together. Now they had to face what lay within, relying on their fragile ship, their combined skills, and the unbreakable bond of resonance that now defined their existence. The transition from open space to the heart of the anomaly was abrupt, disorienting. The ship shuddered as it crossed the threshold, the viewports warping and twisting reality into impossible shapes. The vibrant, living light of Zara's form was the only constant, a beacon in the swirling chaos. Entering the Veil Nebula was like plunging into a sea of raw, chaotic energy. The ship bucked and rattled, groaning under the strain of navigating the unstable reality within the distortion field. Kale fought the controls, his hands slick with sweat, every instinct screaming for him to turn back. But there was no turning back. They were here. Beside him, Zara's light was a storm of intense colors, sharp reds denoting immediate environmental hazards, swirling violets indicating strange energy signatures, a constant underlying thrum of deep indigo that spoke of profound alien presence. She was his navigator now, her innate connection to these cosmic frequencies far more reliable than his ship's bewildered sensors. "Left," she hummed sharply, a sudden, violent ripple of crimson across her form. Kale yanked the stick, narrowly avoiding a massive, invisible energy conduit that flared into brief, blinding visibility as they passed. "What is this place?" he ground out, his voice strained. "It's like everything is alive." "It is a nexus," Zara hummed, her voice tight with focus, "where the veil between realities is thin, and where the great resonance is, strongest and wildest, apparently." The ship dipped violently as they hit a pocket of negative gravity. Kale wrestled to stabilize it, cursing under his breath. He felt Zara's presence beside him, not just as a physical body but as a wellspring of focused energy, guiding him, shielding him with her resonance. "They will be here," Zara stated, her light flickering with warning. "My pursuers. They know I seek the core of the veil. They will try to intercept us." As if on cue, a new energy signature appeared on their rudimentary display, resolving into the same distorted, chaotic shape of the ship that had chased them before. They had followed her into the veil. "Great," Kale muttered, dodging a shower of glowing particles that weren't debris but seemed to be solid light. Round 2. This time, evasion was even harder. The chaotic environment of the veil was as dangerous to the pursuers as it was to them, but their ship seemed more heavily shielded, better equipped to handle the distortion. They were gaining. "We need to reach the core," Zara urged, her light pulsing with urgency. "Before they corner us, the key must be reset within the heart of the resonance." Reset the key? What did that even mean? But he didn't have time to ask. The pursuers fired. A beam of coherent energy, cutting through the chaotic veil like a knife, slammed into the rust bucket's shields. Alarms blared, power fluctuated wildly. "Shields holding," Kale yelled, but he knew they wouldn't hold for long against that kind of firepower. "I can't shake them in this mess." Zara's light flared, a blinding burst of gold and white that momentarily filled the cockpit. The hum in Kale's head became a roar of pure, focused power. "Amplify our resonance, Kale." She commanded, her voice cutting through the alarms and the environmental chaos. "As we did before, force a path," he understood. "Use their bond, their shared energy, not just defensively but offensively." A focused beam of pure resonance aimed at the heart of the veil's distortions, creating a temporary clear path through the chaos. It was risky. It would drain them both, especially after their earlier exertion. But it was their only chance. "All right," he gritted out. "Together." He reached for her hand, their fingers lacing together. He focused, pouring his will, his energy into their connection, feeling Zara's power surging to meet his, amplifying, intertwining. Their combined light flared, a blinding column of gold and blue and silver shooting outwards from the ship's nose, piercing the swirling distortions of the veil. The chaotic energy of the nebula parted before their resonance, creating a tunnel of clear space, leading deeper into the swirling heart of the anomaly. Now, Kale. Zara urged, her voice ringing with power. Fly! Kale slammed the thrusters forward, aiming the ship into the temporary path they had carved. The rust bucket surged ahead, leaving the baffled pursuers struggling at the edge of the newly formed distortion. The light of their resonance held for precious seconds, guiding them deeper, before the chaos of the veil rushed back in behind them, swallowing the path and cutting off their pursuers. They were through, but the cost was high. The light of their resonance faded, leaving Kale breathless, trembling, the familiar ache of depletion settling into his bones. Zara's light dimmed significantly, the vibrant colors receding, leaving only a soft, pulsing blue. She sagged against the console, her form radiating exhaustion. They had reached the core of the veil, but they were weakened, vulnerable. And the true purpose of the key, the final confrontation, still lay ahead. He looked around the cabin. The swirling chaos outside was less intense here, replaced by a deep, profound stillness, permeated by a low, ancient hum that vibrated through the very structure of the ship. It was the heart of the great resonance, and they had arrived, together. The deep, ancient hum of the veil's core permeated the ship, vibrating not just through the hull, but through Kale's bones, through his soul. It was a sound that felt like the fundamental frequency of the universe, a symphony of existence itself. Zara stood beside him in the silent cabin, her light still subdued after their exertion but pulsing with a quiet intensity. The blues were dominant, deep and calm, interspersed with soft threads of silver and gold. They were in a pocket of stillness at the heart of the nebula, surrounded by swirling, distant light. This felt like the eye of the storm, a place of profound power and fragile peace. "This is it," Kale said softly, his voice barely a whisper against the immense hum. "The core." Zara nodded, her luminous eyes scanning the space outside, then turning to meet his. The gold in her light intensified, radiating warmth and trust. "Yes," she hummed, her voice low, resonant with the surrounding energy. "The heart of the resonance." She reached out, her hand finding his, their fingers lacing together. He felt her presence, strong despite her fatigue, a steady anchor in the overwhelming immensity of the veil's core. "The key," she said, her gaze fixed on his. "Its purpose is tied to this place, to reset the great resonance, to prevent it from being corrupted." Corrupted. He remembered her pursuers, their energy nets, their goal of subjugation. They didn't just want to steal the key, they wanted to twist the very fabric of cosmic consciousness. "How do we reset it?" he asked. "What do I need to do?" Zara's light shifted, a ripple of violet showing momentary apprehension. "It requires a conduit," she explained, her hum soft. "A being attuned to the resonance, yet capable of bridging realities. Your resonance, Kale, our shared resonance, makes you capable. Him, a conduit, bridging realities." His mind reeled. He was just a human scavenger. But then he remembered the power they had wielded, the light they had generated together, cutting through the veil's chaos. Their bond was more than just emotional or physical intimacy. It was a bridge itself between his human reality and her alien cosmic existence. "It will require a deep connection," she continued, her voice dropping lower, becoming more intimate. "A complete merging of energies. You must allow yourself to be consumed by the resonance. Guided by me." Consumed. The word was daunting, terrifying. He remembered the feeling of being drawn into her light, the intensity of their shared energy, to be fully consumed by the great resonance. He looked into her luminous eyes, saw the trust she placed in him, the burden she carried. He thought of the life he had lived before her, isolated, meaningless, just surviving. Now he had a purpose, a connection, a future intertwined with hers. There was no going back to being just Kale, the scavenger. He was Kale, bound to Zara, here at the heart of the universe. "What happens after?" he asked, needing to know. "After the reset," a gentle, hopeful gold light flowed through Zara's form. "The resonance will be cleansed," she hummed. "The key's purpose fulfilled, the corruption will be expelled. And for them, their bond, their future." Her luminous eyes held his, radiating a warmth that went beyond light and vibration. "Our bond will be Integral, she stated, her hum deepening with emotion. Strengthened by our shared purpose, we will have a new beginning, here or elsewhere, a new beginning with her. The thought settled over him, warm and comforting despite the danger, despite the unknown. He had found his completion, his belonging in the arms of an alien queen at the heart of a cosmic nebula. "All right, Zara," he said, his voice steady, filled with a resolve he hadn't known he possessed. "I'm ready. Guide me." A wave of beautiful, powerful golden light flowed from Zara, enveloping him, drawing him closer. He felt her form press against his, soft and warm, radiating a fierce love that resonated deep within his soul. The great hum of the veil's core intensified, responding to their intent. He closed his eyes, surrendering to the light, to the sound, to the overwhelming presence of the alien woman who had become his world. He felt their energies merge, flowing together, guided by Zara's will, directed towards the heart of the great resonance. It was like dying and being reborn simultaneously, shedding his old self, embracing the new, the bound, the complete. He was Kale, the conduit, guided by Zara, the echo of the void, cleansing the cosmic heart, securing their new beginning together. The process was intense, overwhelming, a symphony of light and vibration that transcended his human senses. He felt himself dissolve, merge, become one with Zara, one with the great resonance itself. And through it all, her presence was his anchor, her light his guide, her love his strength. The overwhelming flood of light and sound subsided slowly, leaving Kale breathless but intact. He felt grounded again, back within the confines of the ship, of his own body, yet profoundly changed. The deep hum of the veil's core was still present, but it felt cleaner now, more harmonious. And the resonance between him and Zara was no longer just a bond. It felt like a single, integrated energy field emanating from them both. He opened his eyes. He was lying on the deck of the cabin, Zara curled against his side, her luminous form radiating a soft, steady golden light that now seemed intertwined with a subtle, vibrant emerald. The blues and silvers were still there, but the gold and emerald felt dominant, foundational. "Zara," he whispered, his voice raspy. She stirred, her luminous eyes, now the same radiant gold and emerald as her form, fluttered open. They focused on him, filled with a light he instinctively understood as profound peace and deep affection. "Kale," she hummed, her voice stronger now, resonating with the harmony of the cleansed resonance. She pushed herself up, her movements fluid and graceful. Her light patterns seemed to flow with a newfound clarity, intricate and beautiful. "It is done. The resonance is reset. The key is fulfilled." He sat up, feeling a strange lightness in his body, a clarity in his mind he'd never experienced before. The lingering ache of depletion was gone, replaced by a vibrant energy that felt both familiar and entirely new. He looked down at his hands. There was no visible light emanating from him, but he felt a subtle vibration under his skin, a quiet resonance that mirrored Zara's. He was still human, yes, but he was also more. What happens now?" he asked, the vastness of the universe suddenly feeling full of possibility, no longer just a dark place to hide. Zara reached out, her hand cupping his cheek. Her skin was warm, soft, the light pulsing gently under his touch. "Now," she hummed, her eyes holding his, filled with immense love, "we have our beginning." The gold and emerald light on her form intensified, radiating outwards, enveloping him in its warm, potent glow. "The corruption is expelled from the resonance. My people, they will feel it, the shift, the truth." Will they come for you?" he asked, a flicker of his old fear returning. Zara smiled, a subtle shift in the patterns around her mouth that he now recognized as genuine joy. "Perhaps," she hummed, "but the context has changed, and I am no longer alone. Our resonance, it is now part of the great resonance, a new frequency within the cosmic harmony." Their bond wasn't just a personal connection, it was a fundamental change to the cosmic fabric, a testament to their shared power, their shared love. "So," Kale said, a slow smile spreading across his face. "We saved the universe, kinda." Zara's light rippled with amusement. "In a manner of speaking, Kale, we saved the potential for true connection." She leaned closer, pressing her forehead against his. The resonance between them intensified, a powerful, comforting thrumming that filled the small cabin, their private universe. And we found our own true connection, she hummed, her voice soft, intimate. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. Her form felt perfect against his, a perfect fit forged in the crucible of danger and light. The future was uncertain, yes. They were still in the heart of a mysterious nebula, perhaps still pursued by those who wished to exploit the resonance. But they were together, bound not by necessity or circumstance anymore, but by choice, by love, by a shared resonance that transcended species, culture, and distance. He had come seeking salvage, found a queen, faced down death, and ultimately found himself. Found them. The ship drifted silently in the heart of the veil, bathed in the soft, harmonious glow of their intertwined light, a single beacon of hope and connection in the vast, dark expanse. This was their new beginning. And Cale, the solitary scavenger, knew, with a certainty that resonated deeper than any cosmic hum, that he was finally, irrevocably satisfied.